Hey, what's up everybody? This is Jade. We're going to be talking about Monster Hunter Wilds. So, if you, like me and many of the other Monster Hunter fans, lost your minds during the TGA announcement, whew, oh man, does Capcom have my attention. So we started off with this sort of beautiful kind of Wildspire Waste sort of style environment, and I saw the endemic life, the small monsters that we got going on here. I mean, they look a bit like a Gastrodon, but I think that they're a bit different. I'm not entirely sure. But I thought, boy, this really seems Monster Hunter. I kind of bit my lip a little bit while I was waiting for the next scenes to reveal what sort of game it was, and I saw this beautiful particle effect coming in. We've got this chocobo looking thing meets a palamute. So I got a little bit more excited as each camera pan occurred. I don't know, I was not ready for the announcement, but when we got to this chase scene here, I thought it might be maybe just another sort of those hack and slash third party action RPG style games, maybe a new IP from a dev. But I was thinking, boy, it really felt like a chocobo meets a palamute here. And we know that the mobility options has just been increasing since World. You know, we had the Tail Raiders in Monster Hunter World. We had the palamute in Monster Hunter Rise. You could ride the moss swine and the different small monsters if you wanted to, just for the funsies. But in this, it looks like it's a very pivotal and focal point of navigating the environment. And then we've got back here some rather large monsters in contrast to some rather small monsters right up ahead. It looks like we've got a herd of some sort. Presumably there's sexual dimorphism here between male and female, presumably. And then we've actually got some smaller ones, some endemic life that's actually represented here. Which you can see running between the legs of these shelled guys here. Here we go. There they are. And I'm like, boy, this really does seem like a Capcom. It seems like a Monster Hunter. I don't know. I was holding my breath. And then you've got this storm that sweeps in. It's so cool. The particle effects are fantastic. You've got some really great environmental details. You can see how it really casts that sort of opalescent sheen, I guess, on the coats of the animals, and now everything is kind of washed in this purpley gray. So we've got these larger monsters here that are kind of fighting their way through the herd, and then we've got the smaller monsters all are fleeing, and then we've got some of the mobility here that is represented as we're navigating these rather large environments, specifically to avoid the environmental impact. When it the scene panned over, and I'm thinking, oh, if this is a and this was the moment that my mind exploded. Okay, it was either going to be a brand new something like Monster Hunter, or it was going to be this beautiful logo right here. So Monster Hunter Wilds is the 2025 release, and I did a video on my thoughts and opinions on the release date. But even so, I mean, it's your boy. He coming in. Oh, there he is. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. So there's some small details, and there's a lot to unpack here that I actually wanted to talk about, and some small details that I wanted to dissect and theorize as to what that could mean for the IP, for the new game that's coming out in 2025. So I'm going to take it right back to the beginning and go over some of the smaller details here and what that could mean for the final release in 2025. I am excited, and there is so much information densely compressed in just a couple of short minutes here in the trailer. And right here, we could see the endemic life living and cohabitating alongside the smaller monsters. We see the details between the males and females, or at least I assume. The particle effects and texturing effects, the fauna that we have and the flora, just a lot of vibrant life here that is being represented. The problem is that in the interview that Rosa did with Sony, there was a subtitle, and I'll put an infographic up so you can see it, but there's a subtitle that all of the motion picture, all of the footage was actually captured on PC. So this is probably representative of what the PC experience is going to look like at release, and might not be for the PS5 and Xbox players out there. I'm personally going to be getting it for PC, but for my console-based friends, I hope that the experience does not take a step back or a step down noticeably compared to the PC peers. With that being said, there's a lot of environmental texturing and the flora here where the wind's just kind of rustling through the leaves, particle effects. You see that especially when the clouds roll in and when the thunder claps and the lightning strikes, but we'll get to that in a moment. Right here, I thought for all of the Final Fantasy fans, I literally thought Chocobo meets Palamute here, and so I assume that as they've naturally evolved from World, where you have the Tail Raiders, and then into the Palamutes in Rise, and then now this, it looks like we've got a Palamute meets Glider Mantle, which you'll see later in the video. But you've got large monsters here. They almost kind of remind me of Lagombi. But they've got dog faces. I don't know if it's really clear here, but they've got dog-like faces, or maybe it's cat-like faces. I'm not entirely sure. It's not entirely clear to me, but these are fuzzy boys. These are big fuzzy boys, and we have enough of a time fighting one big monster at a time in Monster Hunter, right? I can't imagine. There's got to be what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think 6. I think it's 6. Either way, if you have to fight herds of large monsters, that's going to be interesting, which makes me think that maybe they're going for a more open world approach, more of that sort of seamless approach. In earlier or classic Monster Hunters, there was each area was instanced, right? You had to go between area and area, and it was a loading screen in between. It kind of defeated the immersion, but hey, they were working with what they could at the time. Monster Hunter World did away with a lot of that, where you go between each of the different sub-environments within an entire map, and it's seamless. Maybe they are going for a full open world. This looks like a Wildspire Wastes sort of biome here, where presumably the weather patterns and the environment is going to change depending upon where you're geographically located in the game. But the behavior here seems interesting to me, and I don't know if this is a really pertinent detail, but I'm going to call attention to it anyway. First off and foremost, I mentioned the difference between the male and female, or at least the young and the old, presumably. I'm not sure yet. I haven't seen these before. I don't know if they're new to Wilds, but I believe that they are. And as we pan to the camera changes perspective, here we go. So look, these are obviously really aggressive. These fuzzy boys in the back here, they're having a bad time, they're having a bad day, and they're taking it out on these little guys, but all of them are running too, and I think that the perspective shows that they're not running from the big boys. And the big boys, although they do scuffle with a couple of these smaller ones, they're not actually hunting them. They're not predating upon the herd here. They're all clamoring about to get away from the environmental elements that are coming in. It's literally a storm rolling in behind, and they're big mad, okay? This doesn't look like a good time. With that being said, I believe that the weather patterns are going to play a huge role, and that's actually further emphasized when we see the lightning crash down here. Look at this. Look at this. Also stunning particle effects, by the way. Fantastic. But look, it holds the glow. The electrical charge holds, and it looks like he's still standing. So it looks like this is actually meant to be a biologically evolved defense mechanism to dealing with the environmental aspects or the area in which they inhabit. So I think that that's fantastic. I think that that environmental impact on monster behavioral patterns is really going to help emphasize the lushness and the realness of Wilds compared to what World did to bring that same sort of experience to the table. So with the monster behavioral patterns impacted, I have wondered too if this means that there are going to be like subvariants to these small monsters or not, where maybe they might have ones that are more attuned to a given element based upon the environment that they're in, kind of like palette swapping them in between different biomes. Or if something happens, let's say that maybe he's got 3 spires, right? So what if something happens when he gets struck by lightning 3 times? Does he overload? Does he explode? Does he build a time machine and go back in time and warn his grandfather about the doom that is about to occur? I don't know. But maybe it's something along the lines of, like, think about the paratoads or the nitrotoads from World, where if you interrupt them or something happens and they all of a sudden they have an impact in the area around them. I don't know if there's enough information necessarily to deduce exactly what the behavior or what the impact is going to be or how that's going to affect gameplay, but I think that that's a cool thing to note. The other thing here, look at how stunning the particle effects are. Very, very rich. You see the light fringe of fire and flame on the blades of grass here from the lightning bolt. You also see different areas where the lightning had struck are illuminated as well. There's definitely a lot of small details that are being included and considered as they craft this environment, which is exciting to me. And then we have right here, which looks like maybe a coral region. I think that this is actually different than the Wildfire region, but as you go, yeah, here we go. As you look here, this is a rock structure that's very similar, and as he lands, it's similar to that kind of coral-looking area. I have wonder if the coral-looking area might be like adjacent, and you can travel between the different biomes in one cohesive map, more expedition style. I'm not sure, but I am very excited to see what's coming. And here you can see what looks like a complete transformation of the landscape in front of you. So presumably there may also be seasons, not just weather patterns, but seasons to each of the areas as well, where this might be not the dead of summer, but maybe towards like spring or fall or even winter. And maybe it's one cohesive map where each of the different biomes experience a similar environmental weather pattern or a similar seasonal pattern as well. And then of course, once we got, here we go. Oh, it's a beautiful thing, friends. It is a beautiful thing. So with this being said, we've only gotten a deserty area. We've only gotten some of the mobility and some of the endemic life, as well as the small monsters, potentially large monsters as well. It's just a sneak peek. There isn't a lot to take away from this yet, but I'm excited for what's happening. I'm excited for what's to come, and I'm greatly looking forward to what they're going to be doing with this IP, what they're going to be doing with this new release. I really, really hope that they nail this. Capcom, come on, don't do us wrong. Don't do us wrong, Capcom. We want to see this absolutely send it home. 2025 is going to be the release. I'm assuming it's probably going to be a mid-year or late year 2025 release. If they're announcing in the Game Awards as a announcement trailer, like that was the world debut, if they're announcing that in the Game Awards, then that means they might not be far along in the development process yet, and they've got a lot of ground to cover. So if we're talking about 2 years, like 2025, we're probably talking about 2 full years before we actually see the game's release. But I'm looking forward to that release date. I'm looking forward to any pre-orders that we might be able to get a hold of, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how this pans out on Xbox, on PS5, and on Steam. It's going to be a simultaneous release, and I think that if the mid-generation refreshes come out before this game's release, that there's a good chance that they're going to make use of that new hardware. So tell me what you think in the comments below. Are there any other small details? Did I get the names wrong? Are there actual names for these monsters that I just somehow didn't know and missed? Tell me in the comments below. I want to hear from you, and let's talk about this. Let's dissect this together and find out what exactly we're going to be getting in 2025.